Hey guys, John here, and welcome back to 100 Sound Design Tips. Today is video 9, and previously we talked about basses, so 3 kind of different basses that you could make. Today we're going to talk about very simple leads. Now, just the term lead itself is, it can cover quite a lot of ground, depending on tempo, style, how you play it. So basically in a lead instrument, I guess you should say, or we should say. But anyway, let's talk about a very simplistic type of lead that I think everybody should know. And this is kind of a typical synth lead, a synthwave lead, something kind of like that. You can make on basically any synthesizer. So we have this drum beat here. Pretty simple here. We're at 106 BPM, and the lead we have here kind of sounds like that, and in context, kind of something like that. We can change the texture, which I'm sure this is a kind of lead we've all heard before. Okay, so let's go ahead and start making something like this here. So let's go to menu, initialize. So we have a fresh patch, and we have our saw waves. Now, this one is super easy. It's not really complex. So if you don't have unison on your synthesizer, which you probably do, but just in case you don't, you can use something like chorus that will pretty much get you there. We'll do both versions, I suppose. So for now, let's add some unison. And we have something here, and for a lead, depending on where you want it in the stereo field, you can have it really wide, which can be cool. Sometimes it's also cool to have it somewhat narrow and let the reverb do the rest here. So maybe let's bring down this panning a little bit on this one. And maybe let's bring up the octave by 1. And then let's give it some release. We could do a little bit of sustain. That might be kind of cool. So it's not staying at the same volume as we hold down a note. Okay, so this might be kind of cool. We can go crazy with the release, but it kind of depends on the song, but this should work for now. And then we're going to need some filter modulation, which really kind of sells it here. So we're going to go for a low pass. And for this one, I kind of like doing the vintage low pass 12, or bring this down a little bit here and give us some modulation. Now for a sound like this, we might want that long sweeping filter there. So we're going to give it some resonance first. And it decays too fast here, and that's because of this knob here. So let's give us a little bit of that curve back and kind of increase this. Some mod, maybe a little bit of drive on the filter. And if we're going for a vintage patch, a trick I really like doing is on the filter envelope, adding just a little bit of attack. Gives us that weird like pew pew in the very beginning, as opposed to just that little sound. It can really add quite a bit. And maybe you could even just add a little bit of curve here with right click. And for this song, so like I said, depending on the tempo, how slow you want that decay to kind of go through, how you want this to move here. So if we load it up in EQ so we can kind of see this a little bit, like that speed right there. We can maybe slow it down a little bit more, increase this a little bit like that here. change out this curve a little bit. So it kind of stays a little bit when it first starts. It kind of stays at the top a little bit longer, and then it starts to close, because this curve is really important. So if we did something really tight like this, it's kind of moving pretty quick. However, if we kind of change it out like this, it's kind of a little bit smoother and slower on that spot, and this might be kind of okay for that. Okay, so we have something here, and we just have saw waves, but it might be a little bit nice to have something on the bottom end a little bit, and for that we can use a sub oscillator. So we're going to go into our voicings and add a square an octave down and kind of sneak that into the mix a little bit. And we can see that's going to be popping up right here. And maybe let's high pass this a little bit. And if you don't have an EQ like this, you could send it through another filter. You could send it through a high pass, something like that as well. Maybe let's try that. Let's disable this for now. And instead of filter 1, let's go to another filter. And then here, let's add the second one. And for this guy, we're going to do a high pass. And again, we're going to go for the vintage, maybe a 12, so it's a little bit more gentle. So you can kind of see it get cut right here. We can actually watch this. If we bring this all the way back, we're kind of essentially doing that same thing there. That might be kind of interesting. And for a patch like this as well, something that's kind of nice is a little bit of vibrato. So we can go back to VSaw and then increase the amount here. And maybe a little fade in. Okay, so something somewhat basic at this point. So now we want to add maybe a little bit more effects, and this is simple. So let's add a delay here, and ping pong is always going to be great for things like this, and do a little bit of EQ here. And maybe the envelope should be a little bit louder or a little bit longer, so it's not so attacky. It's like that. Okay, so maybe you want to add some more reverb, something kind of like this, maybe some root reverb, or even add some chorus. But again, we're going to try that in just a second with the new patch. And that might be a little bit much here. And since leads are generally, obviously a lead instrument, it's up front, definitely check out the other filters in your synth, because you might find that the one you go to is great, but you might find for this patch, a different one might sound better. So let's kind of go through a couple of these here. This one's kind of cool at the high end. This one sounds smooth as well. gonna take out some of that low end because it's driving me crazy. And it does sound thin, but that's kind of the point for a lot of leads, is that by themselves, you're going to notice that, yes, they sound pretty thin, but there's also other stuff going on in the mix. So we have something kind of like that. So that's kind of just a basic way to start for just this kind of synth lead. Now, what I was talking about with chorus, if we just have one voice here, chorus can actually get us quite far. So we have root of chorus, and maybe for this one, maybe we can go something like simple for now. That could maybe work for some delay and maybe some reverb too. That could be just finely depending on the context, and that's pretty simplistic. Or we can change up to something maybe like big ensemble. It almost sounds like what we had before. So we have that in that sense. So chorus can get you quite far, and most synthesizers should have chorus. They should have, obviously, your main oscillator saw and filtering and stuff like that. And that's kind of it. Chorus, delay, and reverb, those three things on a saw wave with some filters, you can't really go wrong. At that point, it's kind of just dialing in your amp envelope and also your filter envelope. And again, maybe remember this attack here. That can be kind of cool too. That could be cool. So that's kind of the synth wavy style, but there's so many different versions, and that's kind of why, like, when we're talking about leads, there's so many types of genres, tempos, play styles. So it's kind of really getting, I suppose, getting a sound and the main contour right, because it's going to be lead, it's going to be out front, it's going to be kind of stealing the show for the most part. It's going to be generally in the mix probably as loud as the vocal is if the vocal's not playing. And just with that, you can do a lot of crazy stuff. If we want to do something kind of like a little bit more dirty, I suppose, we can add some unison. Maybe add some good detune, crease some of that here. And then also maybe add some distortion. Or what's it? Multiband. I really like this guy here. And then we'll do a rooted distortion afterwards. The warm tube's kind of fine. And then EQ, maybe something, take out some of the lows again, do a high pass. Kind of doesn't really work with the synth here, but add some delay. Maybe a pattern 3/4 I like. That can be kind of cool. Or add some reverb here. It's kind of cool as well. And then what's kind of fun too is doing some of the sidechain for the reverb. That might be kind of interesting and adding a good amount of that. Kind of gives it a cool little pulsing thing. Doesn't really work with a synth wave kind of thing, but hopefully you get the point here. Can be kind of a cool effect there. So yes, if we even kind of look through, where is it? Where's my expansion here? So, okay. So this is just kind of random stuff I have here. And generally, like when I define a lead, I'm like, okay, this is going to be kind of the thing that steals the show. So we have some like Dirty Birdie, and this is kind of in that case. Good Lord, it's a little bit loud here. Very distorted, very kind of gross, but in the right context, it can be kind of nice. This one here, Easy Does It. Pretty simplistic there. What do we have as well? So we have Epic 80 synth. Actually might work with our drum beat here. Let's try that. That might be kind of interesting. Kind of a flute. It's kind of stuff like that here. And I guess for the most part, I forgot this one. Oh, I was doing like syncing stuff as well. What was it? Not going to play the rest of it, but I think you know what I'm talking about. So we can do a lot of interesting kind of things like that. And for this one here, this one's just a fuzz box, some expander, chorus, filtering, compression, and some reverb. And that can be counted as a lead too. So just in the sense, leads themselves, like I said, can be somewhat nebulous because they cover so much territory. But for the most part, I would say they're going to cover maybe mid to high range. Some can be low end, but then you're going to compete with the bass a little bit. And kind of somewhat snappy envelopes, but take all that with a grain of salt. So hopefully it's kind of get you started a little bit to get those leads in. If anything's unclear, please let me know. Hopefully we kind of covered some of these stuff. Shark lead, we'll end on this note. For some reason, I just love this sound. It's such like a smooth triangle kind of sound. Maybe it just reminds me of my old Casio. Yeah, so play around, make some leads, and try to do the same thing that I mentioned earlier in a couple videos ago, where every day for a month, sit down and just make 3 patches. Maybe you can just concentrate on leads if you're kind of already somewhat up to speed. And by the end of that month, your leads are going to be way better than they were at the beginning of that month. So thanks so much for watching. Hopefully you learned something, and we'll see you in the next one.